Hello again. Right, we're now at the stage of the roof where we're going to apply the finishing top coat, which is also a polyester resin. So the first thing we do is a little bit of prep work, which is mainly involves sanding off any pieces of glass that are stuck up proud of the surface. If you do leave glass proud of the surface, effectively coming through the top coat, water is able to track down the strand that they act in a hygroscopic manner. So it's important that we don't have glass strands protruding through the top coat. So it's quite a quick process. We're going to basically start at the front of the roof, work around the edges, spend some time on the corners where you're more likely to have strands of glass. Once we've sanded around the edges of the roof, we're going to flash sand the area quickly, and then we'll wipe the roof with acetone. So you can bear with us for 2 minutes. We will try and do this at the sort of speed we would normally do in a work environment. So don't forget your dust mask, because it is glass that you're sanding and you don't want to be breathing it. Okay. The next step is to basically sweep the dust off the roof, and then we're going to wipe it with acetone. You can carry on if you want. Right. The reason to wipe the roof with acetone serves two purposes. One is to clean it. This roof was fiberglass yesterday. If we were outside over the nighttime period, you could have dust, debris, leaves, birds walking on it, etc., etc. You know. So the first reason for the acetone wipe is to clean the roof. Now, the second reason, just as important, is that the acetone will break down the surface of the polyester resin on a microscopic level, and it will increase the chemical bond of the top coat. So if the roof has been, if you're applying the top coat the same day, you don't necessarily need to wipe the roof with acetone, because the resin has is quite tacky anyway on the first day. You don't need to increase that bond. If the roof is left overnight, even though the next day in theory the bond will be okay, it's better to improve the bond by wiping with acetone. It's quite a quick process, so foolish not to undertake it, yeah? Acetone is highly flammable. Make sure there's nobody smoking in the vicinity or on the roof once the lid comes off, you know? Process is quite simple. Wet a piece of cloth, we tend to use industrial tissue and wipe the area. Are you happy that side?
Yeah.
Okay, so we've sanded the area to remove any glass strands sticking up. We've swept off the debris that we've generated by sanding it, and then we've wiped the area with acetone to degrease it, clean it, and to, most importantly, to increase the strength of the bond when we put the top coat on the roof. So the next process, we're going to remove these materials from the roof and get the materials required for top coating onto the roof, and start again, so we'll see you shortly. Okay, we now have the materials on the roof to complete the process, which would be to apply the top coat to the roof. We've got the top coat itself, some catalyst to make it go hard. We have an off-cut stick batten to stir the top coat. For the area, we're going to put a large 9-inch roller onto a stick. Handle. We have some spare rollers and a brush for the edge detail there. Also on the roof we have a bucket, because we basically, there's 10 kilos in this tin, and this area is 6 square meters. We want the coverage of half a kilo per meter, so we need 3 kilos on the roof. We're actually going to decant about 4 kilos because the rollers themselves and the bucket, etc., use up some of the product. So we're going to be working with a 4 kilo mix. The intention is to get 3 kilos on this area. Yeah. We also have on the roof some slate dust, which is a crushed natural slate dust. We use this to put a non-slip surface on the roof, so we'll do all the detail of the roof, and then when we do the area, we'll show you 2 methods of putting non-slip coating onto the roof if we require it for walkways or balconies, etc. Yeah. Well, first of all, we're going to stir the top coat. I'm not sure if you can see this, but typical of top coat, when you open it, there'll be a lot of styrene sat on the top. The solvent tends to come to the surface. So before you put the catalyst in, it's important to stir the solvent, and there's a wax solution as well, into the mix. So we're going to give it a stir for half a minute. Now you notice I'm doing this before we decant it, because if we decant it first, we end up with a high level of solvents off the top and half the pigment left in the bottom of this tin. So any batches of top coat you open, stir them before you decant them. Indeed, if you're going to open more than one tin for a large area, it's a good idea to stir the tins and then perhaps pour them back and forth a little bit to make sure the colour is equal through the batch. Yeah. That's fine, so we should get estimate of 4 kilos. And this product will now go back off the roof. Okay. Again, if you remember when I was doing the resin, I talked about catalyst percentages, and a good rule of thumb is how many layers of clothing you have on. I'm currently wearing 1 layer. I think Anthony's the same. Oh, you've got 2 on. He's got 2 on, but he's probably, is it a bit hot? He's a bit hot. So we're going to go with 1% catalyst. I think actually there's about 4.5 litres in the bucket. So 4.5 times 1 is 4.5. If you add a naught, it becomes 45. So we're going to use about 45 millilitres of catalyst. Keep your eyes from over the bucket because it may splash. I can go off the roof. The stirring stick. You get the stirring stick back on the roof. Okay, again, watch for splashes in your eyes, on your skin. It's good advice when you're using quite low volumes of catalyst to spend an extra 10-15 seconds stirring the product. Catalyst starts a chain reaction, so as long as you have the product in all places in the top coat, even with very low percentages of catalyst, it will cure evenly. Yeah? Okay, so now I'm going to use a 6-inch roller to do the edges. Anthony's going to come behind me with a paintbrush for any details in the corners, which is difficult to make look nice with a roller. Yeah? I want to keep the end of this roller clean. So instead of dipping the roller into the product, to start with, I'm going to pick an area which is kind of out of the way, near the edge of the roof. Pour out a small amount of the product, like the size of a dinner plate. Keeping the end of the roller clean, I'm going to pick the product up from the floor, from the roof surface. Yeah? So, now because the end of the roller is clean, so we don't get the drips onto the floor of the building, so I'm going to cross the top of the trim, along the side, and then if you just hang the roller a small amount past the edge of the trim and tilt it, the fleece of the roller will take the product around halfway around the radius of the trim. The rest of the radius of the trim is actually in shadow anyway, so if you make the effort to take the product halfway around the radius, it makes your work look good, and it saves a lot of work trying to paint along the trim next to the fascia. So we want to tilt the roller and just leave the bottom edge of the roller. On the face and then on the top. And product up. This one's in the bed there, so yeah, tip it over. Good idea at this point. It's very difficult to do later. You have a colleague on the floor, ask them to have a walk around the roof and look at the edges of the roof. Maybe it's difficult to see an area that you've missed or there's not enough product on there. So someone from the floor will see it immediately. While you can walk around on the roof, is a good time to make sure that the work on the edges is done correctly. Yeah? Okay. Good to go now? Yeah. Okay, so now we're going to basically fire away, apply the half a kilo per metre with larger rollers, start their work our way back. Yeah, so this one, do you want to use that one? To get the correct thickness of top coat, you should just about be able to see some pattern in the glass of the top coat. If you're not sure of the correct thickness, then just follow the half a kilo per metre and spread it out evenly and you'll be correct. Yeah? Two common mistakes in fiberglass roofing is top coat too thin or top coat too thick. If the top coat is too thin, through erosion of wind and dust and dirt over the years, it will wear away and will shorten the lifespan of the roof. If the top coat is too thick, with contraction and expansion, you start to get cracks in the top coat. Top coat is quite isotropic, which means it tends to hold its own position. It's not like gloss paint, it doesn't flow, so what you see is what you get. So good advice again is if you're losing the daylight at the end of the day, do not put the top coat on. It looks pretty when you're doing it, it looks awful the next day in decent light. So always top coat when you have good working light. What you see is what you're going to get. I complete this bit, don't I? All I need to do is just, yeah, step off if you want. And without jumping off onto the scaffold. Okay, so as I mentioned earlier, there's two methods of applying a non-slip surface to a fiberglass roof. The first method is simply to get a very small handful, maybe a tablespoon's worth, and scatter it over the area. You can do it heavy or light as your preference. Okay, and with this method, if we just leave it alone, in an hour or so when the top coat is cured, the excess slate dust can be wiped off or brushed off, and the stuff that's bonded into the top coat will give you the non-slip surface, and you can see it. It's quite a nice finish. Yeah? The other method, and I'll stand on the scaffold to do this. The other method is to wet an area of the roof as you're working around. So maybe wet a square metre or apply top coat to a square metre. I've done it a little bit heavier than normal for a reason. And we put some slate dust into the top coat, or on top of the top coat. And we go back over it with the roller, which embeds the slate dust into the top coat. Now, we believe, although it's perhaps only our opinion, this second method gives the roof a longer lifespan, because water cannot mix into the stone because the stone is embedded in the plastic polyester of the roof. Yeah, so okay, so we have two methods. First one is to put the slate dust on top and to just remove the loose later on when the roof is cured. The second method is to embed the slate dust into the top coat, which we think will actually last longer, give it a better product. Arguably this one can look a bit better. The important thing is they both work very well from the point of view of a non-slip surface. So if you're doing a balcony, instead of using one layer of 600 glass, you should apply 2 layers of 450 to give a thicker, stronger laminate. And certainly you should put the non-slip surface on for safety of the people walking on the balcony. Yeah? For any maintenance pathways on large roofs, it's always a good idea to put a non-slip surface on there. And that's it. Thank you very much.
Northern Building Plastics. Why collect when we can deliver?